Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Pace Farm. Once upon a time, millions of classic vehicles used to grace our roads as brand new cars. Where did they go? What happened to them? Well, you're about to see one Mopar graveyard here in the United States on this week's episode of Classic Restos. Since 2009, the United States has become the second largest passenger vehicle market of any country in the world, second to China. By the time 2015 rolled around, an estimated 263 million registered vehicles have been manufactured, and this number has been steadily increasing since 1960. Walking through the woods here in the state of Ohio, in the United States of America, and you feel these cars and the energy that's here, the cars that once were. Every single one of these vehicles once having left a dealership by a proud owner. These were the vehicles that travelled the highways and the byways of the United States of America. Some of these cars would have dropped the kids to school, gone to the supermarket, bought the weekly groceries, perhaps pulled a caravan and gone on holidays with the family. The humble sales rep trying to make a living could have driven one of these cars. And of course, the high-end cars, the vehicles of the corporate directors, the self-employed people that did very well for themselves, general managers, and back in those times, the CEOs of major companies as well, enjoying the luxury end of fine motor cars. What's left now is this. Some of these vehicles are engraced with trees growing through them, encapsulated with leafy surroundings, never to ever run again. Some of these cars could be restored, most of them not, but then again I guess it's the question, how far does one go before he or she takes on that restoration? Back in 1968, cruising around the United States in a convertible with a thick shake in your other hand was probably one of the coolest things that you could have ever done on the road. And back in the day, owning a full-size car was the next coolest move. And in 2019, there's only one better thing, and that's to own two of them. What we have here is two 1968 Chrysler Convertibles. They may look the same, but between the two of them, there's a whole bunch of differences.
I guess I'm no stranger to Classic Restos. Been here a few times before, as some of you may remember me. Today I want to talk about my 268 Chrysler 300 convertibles. Both white, as you see, but other than that, a lot of differences between them. Just shows that how you could get cars, the same car, quite different back in the day. This car here was actually sold new right here in Tiffin, Ohio. Traded back in very early in life to the original selling dealer, and then from that point the dealer decided to keep the car. Came into my ownership around the year 2000. I don't remember the exact year. I've had it since. It was ordered actually as a dealer demonstrator car. The dealer ordered it for their own use to show what you could buy, and loaded with options. Although it doesn't have air conditioning, it has nearly everything else. It's got factory disc brakes, which are the 4-piston Kelsey Hayes brakes, AM FM stereo, 4-speaker radio, power driver's seat, tilt and telescope steering, power windows, Just very well optioned car. Even has cornering lights on the fenders that you might notice there. The wheels on it are obviously not stock. However, they were put on the car when it was new. They're vintage, well, from the late 60s, obviously. 62,000 miles, essentially an original car. It was repainted once many years ago before I got it. Otherwise, it's an original car. Doesn't need restoration, you know, ready to go as is. Just maintenance and keeping it going. And I plan on keeping it a long time. I've got the paperwork from the day it was new, showing the dealer demo order. I've got the window sticker that shows the price of the car new, $5,000 for that car new, which you can't even hardly wrap your head around that in these days' prices. But that was a pretty expensive car in 1968. Now the other one here, once again, very similar, red interior, black interior. Biggest difference in short appearance. I've had this car probably 12 years now, and I actually bought it as a wreck and restored it. Although it's a great car, it's not even turned 100,000 miles. I think it's got 96,000. Drivetrain's original, never been rebuilt or anything, but the car was completely body-wise restored. Interior's original. And of course, both cars are 440 V8s, automatic. But this car, very basic car. Power steering, power brakes. Got crank windows, no power options, drum brakes all the way around. Originally came with just 14-inch wheels and hubcaps. I have added the Magnum 500 wheels. That car I've driven everywhere. I drive it just for whatever, just get in and go. Put loads of miles on it since I repaired it. Even though I got two almost the same, they're both going to stay in my collection. I didn't buy or fix either one of them to resell them. Great cars. I've got a couple other 68 300s in my collection also that are hard tops. Just, I believe, a very well-styled, well-built, great performing. I mean, these things perform like a 60s muscle car. These are both 350 horsepower, and you know, even in that big car, that is really all you need. It's really great to have Fletch back, thanks to Shannons. I really look forward to seeing him when he comes and sharing my collection with everybody. I don't get a lot of my cars out and go to a lot of shows because I'm always busy, but I love to still share them with people. I still drive them a lot, but I might just get them out and drive them, not necessarily going to a car show or anything. You know, we just take the kids for ice cream, you know, or something in it. But I'm really glad Fletch comes back fairly regularly and lets me share my cars with everybody that would like to see them. Thanks, Fletch.
My life is hot rods, designing them, building them, and racing them. If you're into rods or customs, you'll know what I mean. It's all about passion, purity, and soul.
Customs and hot rods like the SoCal Roadster is what we do.
And insurance for cars like ours is what Shannons do.
Rods, customs, and even your daily drive. Call Shannons on 134646.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
Like us.
In 2020, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicenter. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2020 Detroit tour with Fletch. Alrighty, here we are once again, our trip across the United States of America. 2019, of course, a big thanks to Shannons. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, good, thanks, Fletch. How are you?
I'm good. Now, today is the day. We've already seen you talk about the car that you've acquired, this sensational 300, an original car, but we're leaving Tiffin, Ohio today and off to Detroit. How do you think it'll go?
I hope it'll all go well. I've had to do a fair bit of prep for the car before, because it has been sitting up for a long time. But it's running really well, so I'm really looking forward to the trip to Detroit.
We only have a handful of days on the trip left. Just alluded to the fact of Detroit, then Chicago, making our way to San Francisco in the next few days. It should be another interesting run. Thanks, Mark. We'll stay in touch and keep you posted as to how the big 300 is going across the United States. Cheers, Mark.
Thanks, Fletch.
Leaving Tiffin, Ohio, about a 40-minute drive out of town, Mark could not pass up the chance to score himself an original set of Magnum 500 rims and centres. But then, after collecting the rims, there was something else that we spotted lurking in a shed.
Behind me I have a 1966 Dodge Charger. I bought this car 1993 out at the Hershey, Pennsylvania car show in the car corral. Drove it home from there, following a 1955 Cadillac motorhome. Long journey, but we ended up making it home. Had some trouble with the engine, but we got it here. After the diagnosis, it had 2 dead cylinders, so we actually drove it home from Hershey with 2 dead cylinders. Got the engine fixed and drove it pretty much in the condition I bought it in, which was original, original paint, original interior. Drove it in that condition for about 10 years and decided to do a repaint on it. So I took the car all apart and took it to a local body shop where they put the original factory color back on it and put the car all back together like that for about 10 years. And then finally here 2 years ago, I pulled the motor out and actually had the motor going through. So that was the first time the motor had been going through, was just 2 years ago. And just put everything back the way it was. It's not hot rodded or anything like that. It actually has the original 361 2-barrel carburetor, and everything's back to windows. It's got power windows. It is an air-conditioned car, automatic on the floor, and very nice car. 90% original interior. Just the driver's seat bottom has been redone. Everything else in the interior is original. I did change the wheels from hubcaps over to Magnum 500 wheels just because I think they look a little nicer on the car. The headlights are actually hideaway. They roll over and face back, so it looks like it has a solid grille. The center console in this car is very elaborate. It runs all the way from the front to the back. Has a kind of a modern style console where you have the storage underneath. It's actually very convenient for today. You put all your stuff in the center console, and it makes for a great road trip car. It's very comfortable. It's got 4 bucket seats, so you can take 3 people with you very comfortably. The guys in the rear have a center console. Pretty much run it and drive it. I've been taking it to Carlisle every year for the past 5 years, which is about a 400-mile trip one way. So on that Carlisle weekend, it gets about 1,000 miles put on it every year. Really appreciate Classic Restos coming to my house, and nice to meet Fletch and his crew, and glad I could share my car with these guys today.
Well, I guess you could call this the perils of a road trip. We've got one problem with the Chrysler. Driving along, thought I could see some steam coming out from the back of Mark's car around out from the front. So pulled over to check it out. I've diagnosed the problem, but first things first, before you do any work on the side of the road, you've got to get your priorities right, and that is muffin and a coffee first. Well, when you think about it, Mark's had a really good run with these cars. This is really the first time that anything has really ever gone wrong on the road trip. And you keep in mind too, it's quite a few miles. You're looking at around about 3,000 miles for the whole trip. Fortunately, in this case, this little incident has happened around about 60 miles just having left Detroit. Okay, so what we have, it snapped a belt and ran very hot, thrown a lot of water out past the radiator cap. Why has it thrown the belt? This is interesting. On these 440s, we have one belt that operates the water pump. Now, for some funny reason, this idler pulley here is sitting too far inward, and it's scrubbed the belt. So what I'm going to do is bought some washers to pack it out so that the pulley sits more forward, keeps the belt in line. Okay, the spacing has worked. It's brought the bracket forward, but now the only problem is getting tension on the belt, because Mark's U-Butte ratchet said it's a 3/8 drive, and we need a 1/2-inch drive to go in there to get tension on the belt. So that's a little bit of a drama. So now we've got to try and find a way to put some pressure on that, but I think I might have an idea. The only thing I can think of is there's a post over there, like a start post. We're going to jam that in, get some tension that way. Give that a go. That's perfectly aligned now. Very, very happy with that. The belt is really straight. Before, it was sitting in here. so no wonder it chewed the belt out. So a bit of pressure now with the start post on the bracket. We'll tighten that up. Should be great to go. All right, looks okay. Mark's a lucky guy here. I thought at first it might have been the core model let go on the radiator, but everything seems to be good now, so we'll see how we go. Okay, we're on our way to Denver in Colorado this morning. As you can see, Mark's car in front is performing beautifully. We've done approximately 1,000 kilometres since the fan belt repair. Car is running flawlessly. It's just so cool to see this type of car out on the American freeways. We've been running since 7 o'clock this morning. It's now 5:30 in the afternoon. We've made it into Nebraska, and we'll be in Denver later this evening, probably around about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. So this is how the days have been. 7 o'clock starts, getting to the motels around 9, 10 o'clock at night, and Mark's 300 is up front. That's running as strong as ever.
When I was a kid, I loved cars.
I've been a motoring enthusiast all my life.
My life is hot rods, designing them, building them, and racing.
Hand-built with a stainless steel roof.
It won the Monte Carlo Rally 4 times. Like Dad, I've always been a Ford man. In '71, this was the fastest four-door car in the world.
Insurance? Shannons, of course.
Hare and Forbes Machinery House has been family owned and operated for over 85 years, and it's easy to see why. Planning on welding? Look at these welding tables and clamps, air compressors and different air tools, sandblasting cabinets, through to spray guns. Everyone is welcome at Machinery House. There are competitive freight rates around Australia, and you can buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. So remember, Hare and Forbes has the range. The road trip across the United States of America 2019, of course, a big thanks to Shannons. Mark, your car is running exceptionally well. We just got into Denver last night. Happy so far?
Yeah, I mean, there's always little minor things you need to adjust along the way, but the 440 is performing really well. Definitely likes the drink, likes the fuel. And I guess the octane level here around some states is only 91, so it pings a little bit under load, so just kind of back off on the accelerator. But it's performing really, really well. It's doing around 70 miles an hour the whole way, and I think it's really stopping its fuel.
There you go. We have to fuel the beast, don't we? Now, we frequent here each year. We can't go through Denver without calling into Greg's place. 100 acres, a wrecking yard, but not just a wrecking yard. As you've seen in the past, this yard here contains a lot of classics as well. Yeah,
the section we're in at the moment is the Ford, Lincoln, Mercury section, and as you say, there's thousands of cars here. Really good stuff, like from the 50s right through to probably the 80s, probably not much more newer than that. Some of the cars, just to highlight, there's a beautiful 73 Mercury Marquis, still got a lovely leather interior, 429 big block V8. That's a nice car. And there's lots of nice cars here for parts or to potentially restore. Behind me, there's a 71 Ford Custom 500. So that was made famous by Clint Eastwood in the Dirty Harry films. The police use those quite a bit. And you could option that up to a 429 as well. There's Thunderbirds, there's Mustangs, there's Lincoln Continentals. There's a whole heap of cars here.
We've been told by Greg we have about 3 hours here this morning as the snow is starting over on the Rockies over there.
Yes, Fletch, we need to be on the road before that hits us.
We've certainly got a backdrop here. Now, you've found another section. What's going on here? What have you found, Mark?
Okay, well, this is the Mopar section. So there's Dodges, Chryslers, Plymouths, DeSotos, I guess whatever Chrysler built, it's here, and Imperial. And behind us here is a 1960 Imperial, which is pretty cool because they're pretty rare. Survival rate was very low, and I need parts for my car. So there's some good parts here for me, which I can grab.
There's always reasons why we come to these places.
Absolutely, 100%. And because with my LeBaron, I only built 999, so they're rare, but this is a standard model, but I can actually use some of the trim. And there's something also very special further up I want to show you, Fletch.
Well, before that, we have also the 66, which you brought across last year.
Yeah, there's it's pretty rough, but there's a 66 Dodge Monaco. good for parts, but that's about it. Okay, Fletch, I know you've got a 74 Monaco and you love the Blues Brothers, so this is not exactly the same, but there's two 75 Plymouth Furies, which is a sister car to the Dodge Monaco, so I thought you'd like to check them out.
You know, I don't think that there would be a car enthusiast on the globe that wouldn't appreciate the Blues Brothers, and certainly the next level for the Mopar enthusiasts. And they did use 75s on the movie. As you said, some of the other police cars, most of them were 75s. Very cool. It goes back to this situation of not every day do we go to a wrecking yard and we see this sort of stuff laying around.
I reckon they wrecked a lot more than 75 too, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking about my love for movies, well, it's not just the Blues Brothers. There's another favourite of mine, and it's Duel, Steven Spielberg's first movie, made back in 1972, starring Dennis Weaver. And the orange car, of course, well, 1972 Plymouth, Valiant. And there's two of those sitting behind me here as well. And, of course, Mark, there is a comprehensive Cadillac section here as well.
Yeah, it's all part of the General Motors section. There's Pontiacs, Chevrolets, Oldsmobiles, Buicks, everything the GM made. And there's some really interesting Cadillacs here. Behind us there's some 50s, 1958, and some earlier ones from the 56. There's also front-wheel drive Cadillac Eldorado, which is pretty cool. Came out in 1967, had a 429 V8, and then in 68 it went to the 472, which was a much better engine, but that's a pretty amazing car. And then there's the big full-size Cadillacs as well, like the 72, DeVille's and the Calais, and also the Fleetwood Broughams.
Absolute dreams to drive these things. And, you just look at these and just think that once upon a time they rolled out of a dealership, possibly even maybe a showroom because of the level of car that they were, and a very proud owner behind the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, they called Cadillac the standard of the world. It was the most expensive car General Motors sold, and it was the market leader for a very, very long time.
Oh, well, thank you, Mark, for that advice. But then again, of course, Mark's from Shannons. Don't forget, pick up the phone, give him a call for a chat and a quote on 134646. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Fletch.
Now, without sounding too predictable, Mark, each year this would have to go down as probably one of my favourite places to stop for the interview. Gorgeous backdrop. Here, Salt Lake City, Utah, or just out of Salt Lake City. And the car, tell us, how is it?
It's performing really well, Fletch. The 440 is definitely doing its job. The car cruises beautifully on these American freeways, and just the ride it's like riding on a carpet.
We've got a 124-inch wheelbase that we're looking at here on this car. It looks so good on the road. And what impresses me too, you'll be surprised how well this thing does go. I know I have alluded to this many times in the past, but I've got a late model GMC. It's a 5.3 litre V8 with all the gears in the transmission. And when you give it the berries, it's quite interesting how much my boot is really into that GMC to try and keep up with you.
Yeah, I guess 7.2 with very few, if any, emission controls, so that makes a big difference, 7.2 litre.
And 52 years behind.
That's true. And I guess what you also notice, it's a bit like the Flat Hill Society. Remember I talked about that once before. The Mopar fans in particular, with a big block V8, it's like what hill? Because the torque just really takes you up the hill. It's got so much power, it really is fantastic.
Now, let's talk about the conditions. We've gone through probably some of the most severe conditions here in 2019. Leaving Denver yesterday, having left Greg's wrecking yard, we got out just in the nick of time, really, didn't we?
Yeah, we could see a big snowstorm rolling in, so we made a beeline to get out of Dodge, as it were, and we headed through, I think, over the Continental Divide, but we actually did drive through a snowstorm, which was pretty full on.
We got up to around about 7,000 feet in elevation, and there was a stop there at one stage where predominantly it's all semi-trailers. I really noticed the ratio of cars was very, very low. It's a truck route.
Yeah, and the Chrysler 300 again did a fantastic job. It's got power-assisted four-wheel drum brakes, so you've got to be careful. But just drive sensibly for the conditions, and the car did a magnificent job.
See, back in 1968, that was a state-of-the-art braking system, although there was nothing new about drum brakes then. It's one of the oldest types of braking system, but boosted. The width of the linings in those cars, the size of the drums, even in 68, they would have been recognised as a good braking system.
Yeah, I mean, the car pulls up fine. You've just got to allow for distances and so on and just drive to the conditions like any car, really. So, yeah, it does a great job.
Okay, well, this is where we're at so far here in Utah, Salt Lake City. Now, the next time we're going to be speaking, well, the way we're going with time, it's a massive trek, 3/4 of the way across the United States of America. We only have so much time to do it. The next time we speak, Mark, will be in the yard of your shipper in San Francisco.
That's the plan, Fletch.
I have often referred to driving 3/4 the way across the United States this trip. It's actually more. Not unlike one of my favourite movies, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, travelling with Mark comes with many situations and experiences. It's a sensible tailgate situation all the way. We have no two-way communication. You're on the seam of your pants from sunrise to sunset. It's a flash of the high beams to indicate any problem, a toilet stop, fuel, or a meal break. It's a road trip where two individuals take in the challenge of driving long distances, enjoying a classic car, catching up with our dearest friends, and meeting new ones along the way. Driving a 1968 Classic in 2019 is an incredible transition. The 1968 American automobile is built so good, a world leader back in its day. At time of filming, the car was 52 years old. Imagine if we did this trip back in 1968, driving a car from 1916. Hard to imagine, but that equation proves how far the motorcar has evolved. When we do these trips, Mark from Shannons lives his dream. He buys his classic car, then he drives it across the United States, the country it was made, and the last time that car will cross its country of origin. Another classic purchased, another classic saved.
Well, I did say back at Salt Lake City that the next time we spoke was going to be here at San Leandro at the Shipper.
And you were right, Fletch.
Absolutely. Now, on that note, Mark, congratulations.
Thanks very much, Fletch. Appreciate all your help.
That's okay. It's nice to have been an integral part of this, well, almost like an operation, an incredible challenge to get this original motor car 3/4 of the way across the United States. A couple of little hiccups, but nothing that obviously was not repaired. Well done.
Thanks, Fletch, and thanks for all your help. And it's good having the backup vehicle as well on a trip like this because we covered a lot of miles. And I thought the MacGyver use of the roadside post was that was probably a standout.
Oh yeah, that was days ago. Yeah, fixing the pulley on the side of the road. Well, that's what you just have to improvise, don't you? The mission now is to get this car back to Australia, and again, it's been a massive 3 weeks, 10,000 kilometre round trip, not done in this actual Chrysler 300, but Mark and I did a lot of travelling prior to getting to Hershey, Pennsylvania. Those episodes, of course, are on the Shannons Club for you to have a look at as well. So thanks again, Mark. See you back here 2020.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
As I say at the end of every week's episode of Classic Restos, no matter where you're watching the show from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching.
You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Classic Restos TV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Pace Farm.